officially the holiday season, and I can't think of a better way to kick off the season than with mulled wine. So I'm going to share my recipe with you, and I'll tell you about some alternative ways to make this recipe as we go along. But I do want to make an explanation. I'm using a crock pot, and I have it set at the very lowest temperature. But you don't have to use a crock pot. You can use a pan on the stove. You just want to keep that temperature very low because you don't want this mulled wine to boil, because you're going to boil out all of the holiday spirit, and you don't want to do that. So let's get started with this recipe. We have the crock pot or the pan. We have I'm using Cabernet, but you can use any red wine, but just make sure it's a hearty red wine. You don't want a wine that is too acidic. And then I have chosen to use brandy. However, you might use cognac or spiced rum. And then you will need sugar. You can use white sugar, brown sugar, or you can use honey, which is delicious. And cloves, cinnamon sticks, nutmeg, and I prefer fresh nutmeg that I'm going to grate, but if you have it already grated, then just put a pinch in and it'll be fine, although I do prefer the fresh nutmeg. You will need oranges, and then you will need some vanilla. You don't have to use vanilla in it, but I prefer it for this recipe, and I use the vanilla pods. I don't use the liquid vanilla. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how to celebrate the holidays. I'm making this batch with 1 bottle of Cabernet. However, if you have a large group coming over, you can double, triple, or quadruple this recipe. So you start by pouring about 1/4 of a bottle of the wine in the crock pot or pan. And that is because we are going to begin adding our spices and get those started so you can smell that aroma all through the house. I'm going to add 1 cinnamon stick because I don't like it super cinnamony, but if you do, add 2 per bottle, but I just add 1 per bottle. Then I'm going to include 2/3 of a cup of sugar. This is 1/3 of a cup measuring spoon. So I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of sugar. And this entire recipe can be adjusted to your liking. If you want it to be much sweeter, then add more. But you remember that if you add too much at the beginning, you can't adjust it as easily as if you would just add more sugar along the way. So I have my 2/3 of a cup of sugar. I'm going to grind some nutmeg. Don't want to overdo it on the nutmeg. I can always add more later if I decide. And then I'm going to add my vanilla bean. Now I like to cut the vanilla bean down the center to release that vanilla flavor. Oh, it smells wonderful. Love it. Let's wash these oranges because we're going to put the peel in the crock pot. I'm going to slice the outside peel of the orange to put in with the spices, and you don't want too much of this pith. You want to keep it just this outside as much as possible because it smells so delicious, and that's where all of the oils are. And that is going to release into that combination of spices and wine, and make this that much better. You're going to have that warm, toasty smell that comes from all of these different spices and the orange. And if you don't want to use orange, I have a suggestion. I have had this recipe with apricots. So if you like the flavor of apricots instead of oranges, give that a try. So I now have the wine, the sugar, the vanilla, the cinnamon, and that orange peel. And one thing that I think I will add, just because I want this to be a little more fruity in flavor, is some orange juice. So I'm adding 1.5 cups of orange juice. It isn't a requirement because, like I said, this recipe is adjustable in a number of ways. But I want it to be somewhat like a punch, and so I think that adding a little bit more of the orange juice might help. We have our orange peels in the crock pot. So now, if you'll notice, I have the orange peels there. I have removed the pith from the oranges, and we're going to cut this orange into nice, thick slices. Because I am going to add, see how thick those are? I'm going to add cloves to these oranges, and I'm going to tuck in about 3 or 4 cloves per slice. And we're going to float these on top of the wine that is being mulled right now as we speak. And let's put 4 on this one. There's 4. And then we're going to do, let's do 4 on this. I don't want to put too many cloves because it can be overpowering. And if you don't care for cloves or you want to add another layer of flavor to this, you might try star anise. Star anise is kind of has a licorice smell to it, but I would only use 1 star anise per bottle of wine that you use. And if you're going to use star anise, use less cloves. Now, that smells divine. I wish you could smell the house. This aroma is just wonderful. Let's give this a taste and see if it needs any more nutmeg. I think it needs just a little bit. So I'm going to add a little more. Now you are really going to appreciate this mulled wine recipe when you are spending the holidays with all of those relatives you rarely see, and especially that annoying uncle, and you might want to go ahead and just double the recipe from the beginning. I've allowed this wine to mull for quite a while now, and one spice that I did not mention that you might want to try, and especially if you change this from oranges to apricots, is to use ginger. Just a little ginger to add that little snap of flavor. So now that that has set and all of those flavors have blended together, we're going to add the remainder of our wine. And let me try this to make sure we have just the right wine. Yes, that's perfect. Cabernet. I didn't want to complete the recipe without trying it. Well, if I tried the wine, I might as well try the brandy before I include it. Let's give it a taste. is a half a cup of brandy. We're going to make it a little more boozy. Half a cup. And maybe a splash more. And then it is ready. We're going to cover it. Remember, we're not going to boil this because it'll boil off all of the alcohol, and then the party will be over. The crock pot has been turned off, and I am ready to serve. So, what are we going to use for glassware? Well, I would not suggest using a thin wine glass because this is very warm, and I'd be afraid it would crack. So I'm going to set that one to the side. I would either use a brandy glass, a thick brandy glass. This is not one of the thinner ones, so I would use that, or I would use a clear mug. So let's see which looks better. We have the mug. We're going to put the mulled wine in the mug. You might float an orange on it, but it might get in the way if we do that. So we'll just enjoy the mulled wine in the mug. Wow, that is really great. If you like it really sweet, I might go to a full cup of sugar, but this is perfect. Or this brandy glass that's really heavy, because you can see how warm this is. It is, let me get a napkin. Here's a towel. It is steaming up the glass. So you can see why I don't suggest using a thin wine glass. But that, or the mug, will work. And I hope that you are enjoying these recipes. And I hope you're enjoying your holiday season. If you are and you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, please tap the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner and follow me on Instagram. Happy holidays!